So this is the last video of my Russian series, and then I'm going to go on to my my Tour to Israel series on my my next set of videos. Now, the reason I'm in front of my train here is one of the great things we did in Russia. My son and I, he asked me one day, he said, "So Dad, you want to go down to the Black Sea to the, the tourist area there? I think it's called Sochi, where the Olympics were. Or do you want to go up into the mountains where there's lots of, the Caucasian mountains, where there's lots of waterfalls and stuff?" Well, of course, I chose let's go to the mountains. I mean, no choice for me there. And we went on this old Russian train. Now, first of all, I'll say that the Russian trains, the normal ones are really good, like anywhere else in the world. But this one here, this was a very interesting train because I think it went once a week. It went up into the mountains to this small town, to the park. And it was like riding an old 1860s train. The track was, like you see in those videos, are really, really rough. And the cars were of, wooden lattice, wooden latch, whatever it is type stuff. It was really a great experience, of course, for me as a train buff. Absolutely loved it. And then when we got off the train and we went hiking up into the mountains there. And it was spring, and there was runoff season, so the creeks and the rivers and the waterfalls were just gushing at the time. So really quite amazing. And we're hiking to this first waterfall, and it was a bit of a gully going down and back up the other side. And we got separated, and it was a bit slippery, and I slid down this gully big time, right down to the bottom. I was running so I wouldn't fall, and I got to the bottom and stopped. And what had happened is this Russian guy, he was coming down the other way, and it was all trees and stuff, so you didn't see anything till the last second. And he ended up, we almost collided, face to face. So here I am sitting there in the middle of the forest, face to face with this Russian, very evident looking Russian guy, and me, a very Western looking guy, face to face, thinking back of my childhood and the Cold War in '62 and stuff, when had we met at that point, what that situation would have looked like with me as a North American and him as a Russian confronting in the forest like this, almost at war. Whereas now what happened is, shortly after we almost collided, his kids, probably 5, 6 years old, and his wife, they came down the hill behind him, and he had his family there. And of course, then my son showed up, and I had my family there. And what a difference in time, as far as here he is. He's just another human on this earth with his family, and me with my family. Anyway, he was quite interested because, as I said, they hadn't experienced Westerners in that neck of the country yet. So he came, and Chris could speak some Russian, and we sat there, kind of had lunch together over the waterfall, and talked about some great and wondrous stuff. So then next we headed up to the next bunch of waterfalls and hiking up the hill, and there was this place where the trail had been washed out, and down below, kind of like Hell's Gate, on the Fraser Canyon, and it was just washed out, and the river, just a torrent below us, just a torrent. And they had this rope from one tree to another tree, and it was probably about, I don't know, guessing 50 feet maybe. You had to cross, you hang onto the rope, and you work your way across there so you don't slip down. And I got across and was heading on, and I noticed Chris wasn't with me. So I went back, and sure enough, he had slipped off the rope and was sliding down towards the torrential river and the big waterfall just below it. And my heart, I grabbed onto the rope the best I could, and there was a bit of a loose rope there in the end, and worked my way down, grabbed him, and pulled him back up again to where we were. I still get nightmares over that when I think about it. But then the rest of the day, we toured the beautiful forest that was there in Russia. Oh, what I should have mentioned in the beginning is when we decided to go to the forest, went to the train station. But at that time, as I say, we were just a little ways away from the Chechnyan border. And back then in the 90s, Chechnya and Russia were, I would say, at war. I don't know what they called it, but there was definitely a lot of military action going on and terrorism and things. And so they wouldn't let us in the train stations because train stations were getting bombed. So we had to load the train in a cow's field just a little bit away from the train station. But it was a beautiful train station. And being a train buff, I just asked the guard there, I had Chris Kranzleit, can I just run in there, take a picture, and come back out again? And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I ran into the train station, took a picture or two, and came back out again. And then we got on the train, took it up to the mountains. Now, decisions are so important in life. So had we chosen to go to the ocean, to Sushi, to the tourist area, at that time, there was 3 train stations got bombed during that time I was there on that route. So I was so glad that, you know, whether it was God ordained or whatever, but we decided to go to the mountains. Now, I'm going to move forward quite a number of years, and I went back to Russia, probably, I'm guessing it would be 15 years later maybe, and we went back. We were on a Baltic cruise, of course, left from Copenhagen and going to St. Petersburg, and then moving on through the rest of the stuff up there in the Baltic. But when we got to St. Petersburg, it was quite interesting. So we're going to get off. We had a tour already arranged for a full tour of the city, and we're getting off we had to go through customs, of course, had our visas and stuff already. And there was a family in front of us, and they went up to the customs agent, and the 3 of them, and got their whatever visa stamped and got allowed into the country to go to their tour buses and carry on. And then Patricia and I, we stepped up to the thing there, and this nasty old guard who was sitting there comes over, no, you know, not allowed to have one at a time, and grabbed me and told me to get back in line. And I was going to explain to him, well, why was there 3 people in the lineup in front of us? It's one at a time, and there's 8 wickets here, and most of them have couples up at the wickets, not individuals. But, you know, I wasn't going to argue with this guy. He was, you know, dressed in full uniform, had a baton and, you know, gun on his side type thing. So, okay, I'll just step back, not a big deal, and I'll wait. And so I stood back, and I'm waiting, and then he came back with his baton and his elbow, and he pushed me against the chest, pushed me back, and waved his baton, waves it on the ground, showing the red line. Don't step over the red line, just keep back. And I go, okay, I can do that. I'm waiting for my turn, and I looked, and the guy beside me, the guard had to go back past him to get back to his chair. The guy beside me, he had both feet over the line, like way over the line. And the guard didn't say anything to him. And I thought, well, that's strange, but, you know, keep your mouth shut, Daryl. You'll be through this in a minute. So then Patricia left, and I went to go forward to do it, and the guard comes out again, and he grabs me. No, you get back in line. And he issues we're in the 3rd line. He issues, tell the people in the 2nd line, you, instead of going there, go to this one. So you basically button in front of me and the people behind me. And it was like, well, I said, my wife is already gone to the tour. He didn't care. He's like, yeah, waves his baton again at me and just get back there. And so then what he did next is he took everybody else that was in line behind me, and he put them beside me, and he said, you know, these people go first, and then you go. Okay, I can do that. It's 3 or 4 people. I can do that. So then all those people filtered out, so there was nobody behind me again. And and I was ready to go forward in the next turn. He came back again and stopped me, you know, roughly, just physically, you know, in my face. And then he put his butt in front of me, pushed me back, and stood in front of me. And then he alternated the people in the line beside me to go here and go there and here and go there, and stopping me from going. So then he goes back and sits in his chair. And I'm going, this is really weird. And so then I saw line 4 was open, so I shuffled over line 4, and the green light was on, and go forward again. And again, he stopped me and pushed me back in the line. And then he went back to his chair, and he was busy doing something else. This whole process took over an hour. This was an hour. And I noticed there was rooms, and there was a little doorway to the customs next door. There was 8 lineups here and 8 lineups there, but that room was totally cleared out. So I looked and he wasn't looking. So I ran over there and got into that room, and the green light was on, and the customs guy asked me to come up, and he took my passport and was just gonna stamp it. And this Russian guard guy came flying through the door again, but this time he realized he was too late. So he just turned around and went back, and I was allowed in. And of course, our bus had been waiting an hour. Think of all the other tour buses had gone. And thank heavens our tour bus had waited for us and Patricia, and we got on that tour bus and did our tour. Now I'll back up a little bit here. And the day before, we're a day at sea on the cruise, and they had an auction. And in the auction, I found this painting. Oh, I just fell in love with this painting. And I don't usually, I'm not a great artist person, but I do enjoy going to the art auctions. They're fun. But this one really got my attention. And it was this picture. It was probably about, I'd say 2 feet by 3 feet maybe. And it was a lion, just the face of a lion. It was so majestic. It was absolutely fabulous. And I thought, I got, it was like $2,000-3,000 US. And I thought, I just got to have this. And then I thought, well, how am I going to get it home? It's big. How do you get it home in the plane? And we still had a lot of holiday to do in Europe. That's going to be awkward. And then when I get home, where am I going to put it? Because our house, we've got all glass windows around the view in the front. And so there's really no walls. I actually have a number of paintings that I bought over the years that are down in the basement because I have no wall space to put them on. So, well, that's kind of silly. There's no sense in doing that. And I thought, this would be such a, for my book and other things, for my icon, for me and this lion, which represents, of course, Jesus or Christ, being the Lion of Judah, kind of that, he's my protector. He's, there's that strength, that authority, King of Kings type thing, to have that lion. I thought that would be such a good image to have. Some people wear crosses around their neck, to remind them of their Christianity, remind them of God, remind them of Christ. I wanted this lion to be that as my representative. Anyway, I decided, no, too much money, too much hassle to get home, and nowhere to put it when I get home, so leave it alone. Now, no, I didn't think it was right to take a picture of it, because somebody had gone to a lot of work to paint this painting, and that, it was for sale. So to take a picture would be, I think, violation of his copyrights and stuff, so I didn't do that. I went back to my room thinking, oh man, I sure would like that painting. And so what I did every night on the holidays is I would go through my camera and find the 5 best pictures I'd taken during the day to post them on Facebook, just to limit it and do it. So I went into my camera, and I got over 30,000 pictures in my camera that are built up. So I'm in my camera, and I'm looking at my 5 best pictures, picking my 5 best pictures of the day, and then all of a sudden, and you've probably had it happen to you, where it's like your screen has gotten, you've been winding it and winding the spring all up as you work your way down, scroll down, and it's like it's totally loaded, and then all of a sudden it just kind of explodes and just goes, and the pictures were just past me, and then it stopped quite a few years back, and it stopped right on a picture of that lion and me, and I had a picture of that in my camera. And that's out of 30,000 odd pictures, that's where it stopped. So at the end of this video, I'm gonna put that picture of that lion on there. And of course, if you go to my screen or my channel, my actual, you click on Darryl Preeb there on the bottom, there's the bottom left of the screen here, and you'll see the actual icon that I use on this and on my books, and I'm using it. But so anyway, that night, God shows up of a visit, wants to talk to me, and he says, I wanted to talk to you. Okay, sure. I said, hey, that was crazy today with that customs guard. I mean, what was going on there anyway? I says, that was so weird. I had to figure you were behind all that. And he says, yes, it was. That was me. I wanted to show you something. Well, what did you want to show me? And he says, well, he says, you want that picture of the lion, which, you already had, and I showed it to you so you could use it. And, oh, I should explain, the picture of that lion we took in Disney World when we were down there with the kids years ago. And it was outside of the bathroom in Wild Kingdom. And there was this big poster. And I stood beside it, and while I was waiting for everybody to go to the washroom, I had somebody take a picture of me and that lion. And it's the same one because he's got this scar on his nose. Now, for me, it was perfectly good to take that picture of the one in the poster in Disneyland. It wasn't for sale or nothing. It was just there. So I thought that was okay. And getting back to the story of God talked to me, and he said, you know, he said, you've made that, after I had found that picture, I made it my wallpaper on my phone, my iPad and my phone. And he says, if you're going to use that as your wallpaper, then you have to believe it. And I said, well, I do believe it. And he says, well, I didn't see that today. He says, when you were in that customs line, he said you had plan A, plan B, plan C. You're trying to figure out every way around it you possibly could without, you know, you were thinking it was, you know, I was doing something, and yet you didn't, you know, ask me or rely on God to bring you through this. He says, let me remind you of a situation when you did, you know, put all your faith in me, being God. He says, when you first went to Russia years ago, and you were in line and you had 2 big cases of Bibles, and were told not to take them in there because, you know, it could be confiscated as you know, whatever, not contraband at the time because it wasn't anymore. But you were very nervous on that aspect. Oh no, actually it wasn't nervous. You had great peace about yourself because you had total faith that God was going to deliver you and the Bibles to your son to deliver those Bibles out there. And you stood in that line, even though it was about 2 videos back, you remember that story. And I got to the front of the line finally, and the Middle Eastern guy they were having a big fit, and all the guards and stuff were just having this chaos. And finally, being the last guy, which of course I was only the last guy because I had made a mistake in the beginning by filling my thing out in German, and then they sent me back again and ended up on the end of the line. And the key reason that I was at the end of the line was so that when they had this guy they had to deal with, and I was the only guy left in the whole building, they wanted me out of there so that, you know, they could do whatever they needed to do with this guy as far as handcuff him or whatever they're going to do. So they just told me to get out of there, and they never looked at my suitcases. He says, at that time, you had total faith that I would deliver you. But today, not so much. He says, so if you're going to use that picture, then live it and believe it. End of the Russian stuff. I've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the Israeli ones. They're coming up. And take care. So here's that picture I was talking about with the lion and me that was taken years before in Disney World when I was there with the family. And not knowing when I got that picture taken that it would mean so much to me years to come. And that God would scroll my whole camera and stop right at this spot. And I now use it as my icon, or whatever you want to call it, for both my books and for my videos and other series that I do. So thanks God, it's fantastic. And have that picture and need to believe it and live it.